Count the jewelry on the most elegant woman in any room, and the number will surprise you. Fewer than 6 pieces. Often the very same ones, worn day after day, year after year. She is not reaching for what is new or what everyone bought this season, or whatever sparkles hardest from across a dinner table. She has 5 things that work, and she trusts them completely. 4 of those 5 are almost certainly sitting in your jewelry box at this moment. One of them, you are probably wearing wrong, and nobody has ever told you why. By the time we finish, you will know exactly how many of the 5 you already own. Number 1 is the tennis bracelet, and the name comes from an afternoon nobody planned. At the 1987 US Open, Chris Evert was playing when the diamond bracelet on her wrist gave way and slipped off onto the court. As the story is told, she asked officials to hold the match while she looked for it. Before that day, jewelers sold the identical design under far duller names: the Eternity bracelet, the Inline bracelet. One woman losing hers on a hard court renamed a whole category of jewelry, and nearly 40 years later, the name has never come loose. What makes the design last has nothing to do with tennis. Every stone is the same size, set in one unbroken row, so the bracelet throws a steady thread of light along the wrist, rather than one hard flash from a single point. That difference matters more than most women realize. A single large stone announces itself. A continuous line simply glows, and glowing is what reads as refined at any age. It also fits an ordinary life, which is rare for anything set with stones. A tennis bracelet looks correct with a linen shirt on a warm Tuesday, and equally correct with a dark dress at an anniversary dinner. No occasion required. Nothing to wait for. That quality alone puts it ahead of most of what sits unworn in velvet boxes. Now, the money question, because the price of a diamond-lined bracelet stops a great many women before they ever try one on. There is a genuine alternative, and it deserves more respect than it usually gets. Moissanite was discovered in an Arizona meteor crater in 1893 by a French chemist named Henri Moissan. Almost none of it exists naturally, which means nearly every piece sold today is grown in a laboratory. It bends light harder than diamond does, so it throws more rainbow color and a little more fire. On the hardness scale, it sits at 9.25, against diamond at 10. For daily wear, for the rest of your life, that is more than enough. A woman can wear a full moissanite line bracelet to dinner, and nobody across the table will ever think to question it. The part almost no salesperson mentions is that these bracelets fall off. That is literally how the name came to be. When you shop for one, look behind the main clasp for a figure-8 safety latch, which is a small metal loop that folds over and holds everything shut, even if the clasp releases. Check that the latch is soldered onto the bracelet rather than hooked on, because a hooked one works itself open over a day of movement. And for fingers that no longer manage tiny springs, ask about a box clasp with a push button. It opens with one thumb and closes with a click you can hear. The settings differ too, and the choice depends entirely on how you plan to live with it. 4-prong settings lift each stone up into the light, so the bracelet looks brighter and livelier. Those same prongs catch on knits and upholstery, and over years they lift and loosen. A channel setting holds every stone inside a metal track, flush and smooth. Slightly less sparkle, considerably less worry. Prongs suit the woman who saves her bracelet for occasions. Channel suits the woman who puts it on and forgets about it. Wear it on one wrist and a classic watch on the other, and the whole look reads as deliberate rather than accidental. What ruins it is company. Bangles stacked beside it, a charm bracelet, anything that rattles when you reach for your handbag. Metal competing with metal breaks the line of light, and the line of light is the entire reason the piece works. A bracelet like this is never noticed from across a room. It is noticed in small movements: pouring coffee, turning a page, taking someone's hand. Weigh what those 2 details are actually worth. Asking for a safety latch costs you nothing and keeps a bracelet on your wrist for life. Choosing the right stone spares you the price of a diamond without giving up a thing in appearance. Neither fact earns a salesperson anything, which is precisely why neither one gets offered. Digging them out is the whole purpose of what we do here. Subscribe, and you will start every jewelry decision already knowing the part that protects your money. Number 2, is the delicate gold chain, and its history is best understood by looking at what it outlived. Bold statement necklaces arrived loudly and left just as fast. Wide collars, heavy pendants, chunky links in odd finishes, each one had a season, and each season ended. A fine gold chain never had a moment, which is precisely why it has never had an ending. It sat quietly through every one of those trends and outlasted them all. The reason is simple. A slender chain does not compete with your clothes. It draws the eye upward toward your face and lays a soft warmth just below the collarbone, which is flattering in a way no large pendant can manage. It finishes an outfit without ever becoming the outfit. Length is where most women get it wrong, so let us settle it. 18 inches is the most flattering measurement for the majority of women, because it comes to rest right at the collarbone. 16 inches sits higher, at the base of the throat, and on a fuller neck that can read tight rather than delicate. 20 inches drops onto the chest and vanishes under anything with a raised neckline. As for thickness, 1 to 1.5 millimeters reads fine and graceful. Past 2 millimeters, it stops looking like a line of light and starts looking like hardware. The detail that matters more than the gold itself is the style of the links, and this one saves real money. A herringbone chain is that flat, liquid ribbon of metal, and it is genuinely beautiful. Kink it once, a seatbelt, a pillow, a sweater pulled over your head, and the crease is permanent. No jeweler can bring it fully back. Box and cable chains take decades of daily wear without complaint. A rope chain forgives small damage because the twist hides it. If you sleep in your necklace, and a great many women do, buy cable or box and nothing else. Metal deserves the same plain talk. 14-karat gold is harder and stands up better to constant wear. 18-karat has the richer, deeper color and scratches more readily. Now, white gold, which almost nobody explains honestly at the counter. White gold is yellow gold with a coating of rhodium over the top. That coating wears through in roughly 1 to 2 years of regular wear, and once it thins, the piece looks faintly yellow and slightly dull. Bright again requires replating, and replating costs money every couple of years for as long as you own it. Yellow gold asks nothing of you ever. Worth knowing before you choose. Gold-filled is a different matter entirely, and often good value, because the layer is thick and bonded and survives years of wear. Gold-plated is not the same thing at all. That thin coating rubs away to base metal, and base metal turns skin green. Clasps decide whether a necklace gets worn or stays in the drawer. A lobster clasp holds more securely than a spring ring, and both are miserable for stiff or arthritic fingers. If yours are, look for a magnetic closure with a small safety loop through it, or simply a lobster large enough to grip properly. A beautiful chain you cannot fasten alone is not jewelry. It is decoration for a shelf. Necklines pair predictably once you know the rule. That 18-inch chain sits perfectly inside a V-neck, and it looks its best against a crisp white shirt with the collar open, one button. Against a high crew neck, the chain rides on top of the fabric instead of resting on skin, which flattens it, and 20 inches carries far better there. A boat neck takes the shorter measurement beautifully because the wide neckline leaves the collarbone clear. If you enjoy layering, keep the discipline. 2 chains, slightly different lengths, both slender. That creates depth. 3 or more, and the neckline turns busy, and busy is the opposite of what this piece exists to do. What to steer clear of is thickness and weight. Heavy links, oversized pendants, and above all, a pendant heavier than the chain was ever built to carry. That last one is quiet and expensive. The links stretch where the pendant hangs, thin out over months, and eventually part on an ordinary afternoon, usually somewhere you will never find it. Number 3 is a pair of pearl studs, and pearls carried the title of ultimate luxury long before diamonds were ever handed it. For centuries, they were what queens wore, what first ladies chose for their portraits, what painters put on a woman's ear when they wanted to show refinement in one small detail. Diamonds only claimed the top position within the last century, and largely on the strength of advertising. Pearls never needed a campaign. They had already held the standard for 1,000 years. Every other gem you own was cut out of rock and polished by machine. A pearl is built instead, layer over patient layer, inside a living creature, and no two ever finish exactly alike. Nothing about it was carved or forced. That is a different sort of beauty, and it goes a long way toward explaining why pearls never had to be fashionable in order to stay valuable. The single most useful fact about buying them is one that almost no woman standing at a counter has been told. Value lives in luster, not in size. Luster is how sharply the surface throws light back at you. Hold a pearl near a window and study the reflection sitting on its skin. When the edge of that reflection looks crisp and defined, the nacre, the layered coating that forms the pearl, is thick. And that pearl will still glow 20 years from today. When the reflection looks hazy and soft around the edge, the nacre is thin over a bead center, and it will turn chalky and flat with wear. A 7mm pearl with real luster reads as far more expensive than a 10mm pearl without any. Most women shop by diameter, because diameter is the easy thing to see on a display card. Diameter also happens to be the cheapest quality a pearl has. 3 kinds are worth knowing by name. Akoya pearls are the cool, crisp, nearly perfect rounds most of us picture, grown in salt water, and they hold the highest shine of the 3. Freshwater pearls cost a fraction as much, run a little softer in shape and warmer in tone, and have improved enormously over the past 20 years. A good freshwater pearl today would have passed for fine jewelry in 1990. South Sea pearls are the large, golden, and silvery ones, priced for a milestone rather than a Wednesday afternoon. For a first pair, 6 to 8 millimeters is the range to stay inside. Anything under 6 tends to disappear against a mature face, especially alongside glasses or short hair. Anything over 9 begins to draw the eye off your features and onto the jewelry, which is the opposite of what a stud is for. Color deserves a moment, because the wrong white can wash a woman out entirely. Cool white pearls generally flatter skin with pink undertones. Cream and ivory pearls tend to warm up golden or olive complexions, and they do something quietly lovely alongside silver or white hair. The 2 tones sit in the same family, and the effect is soft rather than stark. Set in yellow gold, pearls warm further. Set in white gold, the whole earring reads cleaner and more modern. Care is where most good pearls die young, so pay attention to this one. On the hardness scale, a pearl sits at roughly 2.5, which makes it softer than your own fingernail. Hairspray, perfume, and hand lotion eat into that surface and dull it permanently. The rule generations of women were taught is still the right one. Last on, first off. Pearls go on after you are dressed and sprayed and finished, and they come off before anything else at the end of the day. Wipe them with a soft cloth before they go back in the box, because skin oils build up. Never an ultrasonic cleaner. Never a jewelry dip. Both will strip the nacre, and stripped nacre does not grow back. There is one more problem, and it belongs to nearly every woman past 60. After 40 years of wearing earrings, a piercing stretches and the lobe itself thins. A friction post, the ordinary push-on backing, slides straight out of a widened hole, usually somewhere between the parking lot and the front door. Screwback posts thread in and stay put. Flatback locking posts hold just as well and sit more comfortably against the ear for sleeping. And when a lobe has thinned enough that the earring tips forward and points at the floor, a small support disc slip behind it lifts the stud level again. Inexpensive, invisible, and the reason a good pair of pearls goes back into daily use. As for what to wear them with, pearls are the most cooperative jewelry you own. A white shirt with a blazer. A cashmere cardigan. A heavy winter knit. The black dress that has been hanging in your closet for 11 years. Studs never look overdressed at a grocery store, and never look underdressed at a dinner, which no other earring manages. Steer clear of oversized pearls and of any setting that crowds crystals around the stone. The instant a stud becomes a cluster, the restraint that made pearls elegant in the first place is gone. Luster over size and last on before first off. Those 2 rules are worth more than any number written on a price tag. They are also easy to forget between now and the afternoon you actually stand at a counter or open a box on your birthday. Save this video for that day. We put out this kind of information every week because the practical part is the part nobody hands you. And a woman who knows it stops overpaying for size and stops ruining good pearls with hairspray. Subscribe, and you keep that knowledge within reach for every jewelry decision still ahead of you. Settle something for me in the comments. On an ordinary day at home, which pair do you reach for? Pearl studs or gold hoops? And tell me where you are watching from, because it helped enormously in choosing what we cover next for your part of the country. Number 4 is gold hoops, and the mistake here is nearly universal. Somewhere along the way, women were taught that bigger reads bolder, and bolder reads younger. It works in the exact opposite direction. Oversized hoops become the first thing anybody notices in a room, and the woman wearing them becomes the second. The right pair does something far better. It carries light and a bit of movement up near the jawline, and it softens the face every time you turn your head. That effect is what makes hoops flattering after 60. Size has nothing to do with it. 20 to 30 millimeters frames the face without swallowing it. Past 40, the hoop starts arguing with your neckline. And for a woman who wants gold at her ears with no swing at all, huggy hoops at 10 to 12 millimeters sit close to the lobe and stay quiet. Weight matters more than diameter, and this is the detail almost nobody raises. A hollow tube hoop weighs a small fraction of a solid one at the identical size. Weight is what drags on a thinned lobe across a long day, and dragging is what stretches a piercing further. Ask specifically whether the hoop is hollow. Same appearance, far less pull. Hair changes the effect considerably. With a pixie or a short crop, hoops stay fully visible and add softness right where the cut ends. With a bob, they catch light at the jaw and echo the line of the hair. With shoulder length or longer hair, they appear and disappear as you move, and that flicker is the most flattering version of all. Then there is the point the fashion advice always skips. Most women over 60 wear glasses every single day. A thin, polished hoop clears the frame and reads clean beside it. Textured hoops, crystal set hoops, and anything wide crowd the temple arm and make both pieces look cheaper than they are. Frames come first, the earring works around them. On security, buy click-top hoops. The post clicks into the far side and locks shut. A simple wire hook works itself open across an afternoon of talking, reaching, and pulling a coat on and off. And that is the leading way a gold hoop leaves home and does not come back. Avoid heavy texture, added crystals, and embellishment of every kind. Those designs belong to a particular year, and every year eventually passes. Number 5 is the signature ring, and you already know which one it is. It goes on the same finger every morning, usually before you have finished your coffee, without a single moment spent deciding. It has been present at birthdays and weddings, in hospital waiting rooms, at the kitchen table on afternoons that seemed like nothing at the time, and turned out to be the ones you remember. That is what separates a signature ring from the rest of the box. Everything else gets chosen. This one simply gets put on. Its worth was never about the size of the stone or the figure printed on the receipt. The designs that stay beautiful across decades are the plain ones. A clean gold band, one stone in a simple mounting, a classic cut in a color you have always loved. Nothing about those choices belongs to a particular year, which is exactly why they never look dated. Stone choice matters far more than most women are told, and the difference shows up in years of daily wear. Sapphire measures 9 on the hardness scale and takes ordinary life without complaint, which is why an inherited sapphire makes such a fine everyday ring. Emerald measures 7.5 to 8, and that number is misleading, because emeralds run through with natural inclusions. Tiny internal fractures that come with the stone. Those inclusions make emeralds chip along the edges. A beautiful emerald belongs on a hand at dinner, not on a hand emptying a dishwasher. Diamond handles anything you put it through, and pearl or opal set into a ring will not survive a year of genuine use, no matter how careful you intend to be. Fingers meet door frames, countertops, and car doors constantly. The mounting deserves the same attention. Prongs raise a stone up where light can reach it, and lifted stones sparkle more, and lifted prongs also snag on sweaters, upholstery, and grandchildren's hair. Over time, a caught prong bends, and a bent prong eventually releases a stone. A bezel setting wraps a rim of metal all the way around the stone's edge so it sits flat and catches nothing. If you cook, garden, or spend your days with your hands in motion, bezel is the wiser choice by a wide margin. Metal, briefly, because we covered part of this already. Platinum wears down rather than away, holds a stone tighter than gold does, and never changes color. White gold, as you now know, is rhodium over yellow and wants replating every year or two to stay bright. Yellow gold asks nothing at all. Now the two problems that keep good rings sitting in drawers, and both have fixes almost nobody mentions. The first is knuckles. Arthritis and swelling widen the joint so the knuckle becomes broader than the base of the finger below it. A ring sized to pass over that joint then spins loose all day and turns the stone toward your palm. The repair is small. A jeweler solders 2 sizing beads inside the band, and those beads hold the ring upright and centered without changing the size that gets it over the knuckle. The other option is a comfort fit band, which is domed on the inside rather than flat, and that rounded interior slides over a stiff joint far more easily than a squared edge does. Either one is a short appointment and a modest cost. The second problem is the joint that no longer permits a ring over it at all. A jeweler can fit a hinged shank, which means the bottom half of the band opens on a small hinge and latches closed once the ring is on your finger. Most women have never been told this exists. It is the reason a wedding band that has been in a drawer for 6 years can be back on a hand by the end of this month. If that describes a ring of yours, take it in and ask by name. One old rule you may safely retire: mixing metals. Gold and silver worn together looks deliberate now rather than careless, provided one metal leads and the other appears just once. A gold ring with a silver watch reads as intentional, while an even split of both across 2 hands reads as indecision. What to avoid is stacking. Several bold rings on both hands argue with one another, and in an argument like that, every piece loses. 3 statement rings do not say 3 times as much as one, they say considerably less. One ring, chosen well and worn constantly, carries more weight than a handful of them. A ring like that tells your whole story and never has to say a word. Sizing beads, a comfort fit band, a hinged shank, none of those involve buying anything new, which is precisely why no one selling jewelry brings them up. The most valuable information in this field is usually about keeping what you already own in use. That is the sort of thing we look into week after week, so the pieces in your box stay on your hands instead of waiting in the dark. Subscribe and you will keep hearing the part that costs you nothing and gives your jewelry back to you. Now settle an argument for me. 1 ring worn every day, or a few stacked together on the same finger? Some of you will say stacking looks modern and current. Others will say it looks cluttered, full stop. I want to hear which side you land on, and I would like to know why. So there you have it. 5 pieces, and they work as a set. The bracelet that catches light in the small movements of your day, the fine chain that rests at the collarbone and lifts the eye to your face, the pearls that keep their glow for 20 years when you treat them properly, the hoops that soften the jawline without ever taking over, and the ring that has quietly carried your whole history. Count them now. How many of the 5 are already in your box? For most women watching, the answer is 4. Sometimes all 5. Which means the question worth sitting with is not what to buy next. It is which of them has gone unworn. The earrings you stopped putting in because the post kept slipping, the necklace you cannot fasten alone anymore, the ring that has not fit over your knuckle since 2019. Every one of those has a fix, and none of the fixes require a purchase. That is the whole point of 5 pieces instead of 50. Quality outlasts quantity every time. A woman wearing 5 things she loves looks finished. A woman with a drawer full of jewelry she never touches looks exactly the same as she would with none of it. Fashion changes far more quickly than confidence ever does. Trends arrive excited, take up 2 seasons, and leave without much notice. Meanwhile, your favorite piece is almost certainly not the newest thing you own, and almost certainly not the most expensive. It is the one your hand goes to without asking. If that describes how you already think about getting dressed, 5 good things, worn well, nothing to prove to anyone, then you and this channel want the same thing. We make a new video every week for the woman who stopped dressing to impress a room and started dressing to feel like herself. Subscribe and you will have company in that. The last thing you put on is confidence, and it is the only piece you have never once had to replace. Before you go, tell me this. Which piece of jewelry have you stopped wearing, even though you still love it? And what was it that finally made you take it off?